All right, we are back with the first official video of the new year. And today we are here to talk to you about why people dislike Lex Fridman. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, well, I'm not kidding because that's what's going to be the content of the video today. We're not just going to talk about it in an arbitrary fashion. I'm going to explain to you the current controversy that's been going on with him from what I've noticed thus far. And then I will give you my perspective on why this actually falls in line with my personal opinion of him. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. First of all, Happy New Year's. Secondly, so Lex Fridman, during his New Year's, resolute, everybody talking about what they're doing for the New Year's, he decided to release a list of the books that he's going to be reading over the course of this year, because that's his goal, is to read a book a week. Well, that's already good. Reading books is great. People's problem is with the list of books that he is going to read. It's basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Not cliche, but it's like they're calling them basic books. Things like 1984, and I honestly didn't even pay attention to the list, and I'll get into that a little bit later here. But essentially, it was a bunch of books like Of Mice and Men, stuff like that, like books that you would read in a high school, class, things like that, which is, people are saying is basic. And, intellectuals are saying, oh, well, you should read this book on, you know how people are on the internet, calling him stupid, calling him basic, any type of projection of their own insecurities. But at the same time, I actually think that this is enlightening to something that I have a deeper issue with about Lex Fridman as a figure, not as an individual, as a person, whatever. Don't care about him as an interviewer. Well, let's just get into it. I think that the deeper issue with why people are so critical of his reading list is because of the nature of Lex Fridman as a man. Lex Fridman, especially in his online presence on Twitter specifically, is somebody who just spouts off these weird platitudes about how he's all about love and peace and bringing the world together and making it a better place and stuff like that. Things that are not necessarily bad things to want or to aim for or to claim that your purpose is, but it's so, I don't want to say naive. I'm not going to, it's just so corny to say such platitudes, to talk in such nebulous terms about things like, the guy said he wants to interview Volodymyr Zelensky and also Vladimir Putin. And we get it. You want to hear perspectives from both sides for your own personal gain. And I wouldn't lie to you and say that if I had the opportunity to safely sit down in a room and talk with both of these men, that I wouldn't want to. That's not the point here. The point is the way that he speaks about things in this manner is as if he has some special verbiage, some special nature within him, some special power of healing that if he just was able to impart these words on people, the world would become a better place. And you know what? I will even say that's fair enough. I believe that people should have a certain amount of that belief in themselves if they do want to become great elocutioners or orators. That's a part of it. But at the same time, that's a part of the cocky nature of, and I know all last month I was talking about it, but referring back to the interview that he had with Kanye West, where Kanye was like, you're not going to Lex Fridman me. What he meant by that was, you're not going to paint this picture from this moral high ground where you're trying to teach somebody a lesson. See, Lex Fridman is missing some natural principle where you should understand that the nature of men does not take kindly to that. It's finger wagging in people's faces when you talk this way. And it's not in a scowling fashion, but that's even worse. Because when somebody's scowling at you and you're just like, screw you, man, whatever. But when somebody's like, it's so beneath me, I don't understand why human beings must resort to violence. It's like, why? There's so many years of studies of nature and laws and emotions and violence and dominance and hierarchies and class to understand why people treat each other in the ways that they do nowadays. So yes, maybe he does need to read those books. Maybe he does need to study more. His actual professional training and background is in architecture and engineering, from what I understand. Those people are extremely intelligent, but oftentimes idiot savants who only know one avenue of intellectualism. And there's nothing wrong with that, because human beings are created for purposes and tools and things like that. Now, getting to the podcast, I actually think that this bland milquetoast way that he goes about being a human being is not, it's a net positive for us as far as interviews go, only in the fact that you will see people sit down with Lex Fridman that you won't see sit down anywhere else, because he is such a neutral character. But that also means that his content will always be neutral and safe, meaning that those people know that they can go and sit down with him because he will not ask the hard-hitting questions that people actually care about. And that's a problem. That's why I don't personally watch much of Lex Fridman's content at all. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When 2 years ago, when I first discovered him on YouTube, I saw him through Joe Rogan, as a lot of people I'm sure do. And I saw his content, I watched his interviews, and it just it dulled me. The nature of him and his content dulled me, or it drove me away because it's dull. And then when I recently joined Twitter here, just a few months ago when Elon took over, I follow him. Well, I did follow him, I'm pretty sure. I do follow him because I appreciate his content, his contributions, the people, the schools of thought that he aligns with and stuff. But when I noticed how he portrays himself on Twitter, and it could very well be the genuine person that he is, as this person who's just like, everything is love. He literally says things like, most people are good in their heart, or most people are good. And if you have the nerve to say that, speaking so generally on Twitter, why would you then criticize a man about saying that specifically about a figure like Hitler? If somebody said that there is good in Hitler's heart, there is good somewhere in Hitler's heart, that's the exact same thing that you're saying on Twitter, but you don't like the way that it was worded because it involves somebody who is potentially perceived as negative. But the truth of the matter is, without the platitudes, without the thought of how are people going to perceive me, you, Lex Fridman, if you ever see this video, or anybody who's watching, he should be able to say, because there is good in most people and most people are good, there is also good in Hitler. And you should understand those kind of things without having to, it should not be unreasonable to see why Kanye West was making the statements that he does. And me personally, that is why I prefer people making comments and content in the nature of the way that Kanye was doing it, with the worst example, than a person like Lex Fridman, because that shows you the truth. How many people really love everybody? How many people really believe that there's good in everybody? Oh, it's really easy to say that when you're talking about Jesus and following the footsteps of Jesus, like Lex Fridman is, and talking about candy for dinner and dessert and stuff, like platitudes, my point. But when you say that Hitler has good in him, people are like, oh, they're repulsed by it. Why do you think that is? And why do you think somebody would choose to go that path? Why do you think that Jesus Christ chose to hang out with lepers? Because it was the cool thing to do? That, in short, is my issue with Lex Fridman.